Hello and welcome to Sovereign RPG. I am Sovereign. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to put a little bit of a break today on the complete Soulmask series because I'm starting to lose my voice a lot and there's I'm getting a little bit ill. But today we're going to be talking about what the game needs to sort of grow itself, to become a little bit better. I'm really enjoying the game the way it is, but there are a few things that I'd like to make some changes with, and I'm sure a lot of people will actually agree with this because there's some things in there that really do need to be looked at in some way or another. And some of these were actually made by comments on some of my videos on the complete Soulmask series and some other videos that popped up. I did some guides videos and people actually made comments on what they think would make the game better, and there were a few, especially the first one I'm going to talk about, which I found actually quite interesting and quite a good idea for the game to actually become better on a starting front from the moment you create your character, because there's kind of a feeling at the moment where you dissociate yourself with the character because of how bad the character is. And now I've spoken about it before, where the main character is actually the mask, not the player itself, not the person you create. But then there was some other comments where it came out and said it doesn't make sense because of X, Y, and Z. But they need to actually put in place the way that to make the player know that basically the mask is the main character. Maybe add a little bit of character creation for the mask itself. Start off with a base mask that you can set and add some abilities to, and do a few other little bits and pieces. I think that'll be actually really interesting for them to go in that way. Also, completely ditch the character creation for that first character. Don't bother with it. If the character's not going to be able to be like used, or it's not going to be anything in the future for it, maybe they have plans for that character later on, ways that you can upgrade that character to make him better. I'm not sure what their plans are on that. The roadmap doesn't really specify anything on that front. But if they get rid of the character creation for that first main character, I think that will take away a lot of the animosity towards making that character completely unusable. There are other options available. Make the character usable in other ways, at least to make him be able to do things automated like all of the rest of your tribesmen. Even if he's less able to do some of the things, he can still be useful for a long time afterwards. But another comment was made that where the person actually said that they would like the possibility to make your character that you're having as the mask, that when you go and control another NPC, to choose that NPC to be your chieftain and be able to remove the main character. Now, the main issue with the main character is, at least for me, the only issue I have with the main character right now is it takes up a slot on the resurrection sarcophagus. Like, it takes up a slot on there. You have 4 slots and it takes up one of those 4 slots, which is not good for anyone, and it's completely kind of useless. And I do understand why they're doing it, because if you lose all your tribesmen on an official server and you haven't got them saved at all beforehand, so for instance for the first hour of the game, because it doesn't take that long to get into the first ruins and get the sarcophagus to be able to put it on the mysterious stone tablet and get the first level upgrade for that. It's not that hard to get. You can get it almost instantly. You can just go into you don't even have to go to the boss room. You just go in the little entrance bit until it's on your first left. So you can actually get that really quickly. That's not really like an issue. You can actually upload a character that you want to keep forever in that way. Now, what they have with the main character is the fact that it keeps all its proficiencies and its levels and everything every time you reuse it. So I understand that there is something there that can actually be used, and it does help somewhat, especially on official servers. So I don't see that being too much of an issue. But let me know what you think should be done with the main character before we move on to the next point. Now, the next point I have, which is my biggest thing, because I love building new bases. I love building things. I love going to different locations. I love seeing what I can do there. Now, the main issue I have is migrating tribesmen. There is a way you can do it where you can move 2 at a time and then respawn into the main character and then die and go back to the bonfire or the other place and pick up 2 again, etc, etc. There are ways you can do it. However, there should be a way, at least in there were some workarounds. People tried to do some pretty ingenious things when it came to actually migrating your tribesmen. When you have large quantities of tribesmen and moving it from one place to another, they would use the patrolling system, or they would then end up using putting a box 300 meters away. I don't know why I said 500 then, but they move the box 300 meters away and they'll get the tribesman to move for items from one box to that box. And then they'll get the person to pick up the items again from that box and move it to the next box, and they'll do it 300, 300, 300, 300. But that eventually still has a maximum amount of like the maximum amount of distance you can use, it stops doing it after a while. Now I don't know if that's the thing they put in place, but it's currently a thing that holds that method back, and I thought that was pretty damn ingenious, to be perfectly honest. I even tried it out myself to get them to automatically move to the next base, just move from chest to chest to chest to chest until you got to your base location, but it doesn't actually work. It eventually stops working. I also thought that the way that they could do that, if you followed them, then they wouldn't time out when they get to a certain point and freeze, because when you half the map freezes when you're not near it. So what happens is when you're loading areas in, then things will start moving. If you move out of that area, then it kind of goes into a stasis mode. So I thought if you got them all to start moving at the same time or as quickly as you could move with them and get it to work. But again, it just stops at some point and doesn't really work that well. I would like to do some more testing on that myself, because there are some ideas I'd like to mess around with that before I do a video on the full migration, because that's a bit of contention between a lot of people. But what they really should have is a move home button. Now what would happen, I wouldn't say that you can just go in there and say move home to this bonfire and then all the tribesmen get up and start walking over there. I think there should be requirements for this. They should have enough food depending on the distance. They should have enough bandages. They need weapons and armor because they'll be attacked along the way. Maybe there's some NPC stuff like invasions could happen along the way to make it less overpowered, and it will make it more fun while you're traveling through. Because I remember on the Steam store, there was actually videos showing traveling with animals and traveling with packs and like big groups of people and stuff. But I can see that that was just players. Like that was just players from tribes doing that. So it wasn't anything to do with the NPCs, but it did put the idea in a lot of people's minds that it actually would have been a really good thing. So putting a move home button with some requirements, some like something that you need to craft, maybe that crafting requirements some food and some weapons and some armor, and have that and craft that, and then you can do the move home button. I think that would be really interesting and would be really fun actually as a game mechanic. I think that would be something that really nice that goes into and ties within the game itself. Now moving on to the next part, which is still to do with the tribesmen. We need more than one deployed tribesman. I would like a minimum of 3, so run around with 3 different tribesmen, because it does have a single player mode as well. It's not like the game is just for PvP or just for PvE in a multiplayer setting. So when you get to a certain point, yes, you can kill all the bosses when you have a really overpowered, really overgeared NPC, and you're using the mask that ups the NPC stats, which is basically what I'm trying to do in the complete Soulmask series, is actually get to that mask and use NPCs to do a lot of the stuff, because I believe there's a lot of things that can be done with the NPCs. So the NPCs is kind of what I want to work with. Excuse me, I just started to lose my voice. I had to take a little bit of a drink there. I think this will be the best bet to allow some more abilities. I mean, there's already ways you can limit tribes, you can limit the amount of tribesmen you have, limit the amount of clan members that you have in your clan, etc., which are players. So if you wanted to limit the only to the single player games, or if you wanted to limit it to PvE servers, or if you want to limit to that way, you can put a limit on the PvP server and keep it as only 1 deployed. Because you could do several things like that in Myth of Empires, where you could deploy multiple NPCs and you can run around with those and fight with those. I think that's going to be a step in the right direction for us to be able to do something like that. Again, I'm really apologize for my voice. I'm losing it quite a lot, so if it starts to sound really bad, I'm really sorry. I just wanted to get this out there while I had these ideas in my head. Also, make a comment down if you agree with any of this stuff, or if there's some slight differences you'd like to see of what the game needs to progress a little bit further. I always like to be, even if it's completely against what I'm saying, please write that down there. I do like to see everyone's opinions, because sometimes you'll actually change the way I think because I'm not thinking about something at that moment. Now this is more of an update and more of a thing that needs to be done over time, and that's mess with the AI a little. Now I like the way the AI runs. It's probably one of the best AI systems I've fought against in a survival game, where they're dodging and rolling and blocking and all that kind of stuff, and coming into attacks when you have your back to them and stuff like that. I think it's actually on the right path. The thing that I have with the issue with the AI is the movement around. So they get stuck on a lot of things. The path finding is not very great. It kind of reminiscent of Ark Survival Evolved when that first came out, and that didn't even get updated until 5 years after the game came out, where the AI became a lot better. It didn't even get better until Ark Survival Ascended, which came out like July last year. It took a lot of stuff for them to get the pathfinding just right, and it took them long enough just to stop dinosaurs from running into a rock instead of walking around and finding the way up, for example. That took a long time for them to get used to us. I don't know how long it would take for Soulmask devs to get that and make that a thing. But I do think the pathfinding needs a little bit of work. But other than that, with the NPCs themselves, the amount of abilities they can have, the amount of different proficiencies they can have, I really love that system that they have in place. So I wouldn't really change any of that. I would like to see more variety in the level of stats, the proficiencies that they can get. So it's not 90 across the board. I'd like to see 10s and 20s in certain things. For instance, because I'm picking up NPCs that have 90 in everything, and I don't think that they should have 90 in everything. I think that if it's a porter, it should only have the first 5. If it's a laborer, it should have the next 4, and if it's the crafter, it should have the next 5, and the rest should be bad. You shouldn't be able to use that to a pretty decent degree for all. Like one NPC can just pretty much do everything. I understand why they're doing that because of the tribesman limit, so I do understand why that's happening. However, I would like to see more variations and less being able to use an NPC for everything. Now lastly, because of the fact that I love building, because of the fact that I like doing bigger structures and I like to have a bit more freedom, I'd like to see more like ways to be able to, like, even if it's a server, a single player server option where you can click in there like it did with the S Plus when they added S Plus in Arc, where you could build into things more, then I'd like to see that added so we can put walls within walls and stuff, so you can make almost perfectly circular bases. For example, you don't have to break everything down because you forgot to put a pillar in one point just to put a pillar in. The pillar should be able to go in there and slot in that way. I understand again why those things are in place, because of PvP and because of meshing and because of all kinds of other things, that it is to stop like a lot of the bad stuff going on from players who'd like to take the piss. But I also think it should be an option available to us for us to be way more creative in the way that we're building. I know a lot of you who love building have a lot of opinions on the way that the building system works, so please, again, let me know down below what your opinions are on the building thing. I just like to be like more creative. I'd like to have more variation. The last 2 tiers of stone and blackstone, there's not really much difference, so it's like I'd like to see a little bit more variation in there. Maybe large stone blocks, for example, or something like that would be quite cool. So we could do something on the more Aztec-y side of things with the pyramids, etc. I would like to see a more variation in the way that you can build tree houses, for example, or build out of a mountain, where you can have like maybe like a larger pillar system, so you can put a larger pillar so you don't have to have 5 million pillars going down the side of a mountain, and it starts to make it look a bit bad. I'd like to see maybe a little bit more distance between each pillar, for example, so you can still make it look good whilst also kind of keeping the structural integrity sound. Again, apologize, I keep losing my voice and it's just going nowhere. Another thing I'd like to see is not so many vast open spaces on a map. I'd like to see more variations of animals in the future, more things that you can put into animal pens, more things that you can use as mounts. I know these will be added in the future and it's definitely going to be on the roadmap because everyone loves mounts, everyone loves having animals. I'd like to see more combat animals, and I'd like to see it not just be about the mask. Have some basic levels. Maybe be able to have like a tribesman slot taken from a wolf, for example, and have that wolf as your pet, and or like being able to do things like I don't understand why there's not the ability to hunt for your NPCs to go out and hunt and get your, rather than just having the animal pens and having a guy look after it. Why can't they go out and just kill things, patrol, and then use the knife and take the hide and the leather and stuff like that? I think that should be an option there as well, and I think that will really open up the game to some more options. And I'm sure I could sit here all day and talk about all the things that could be changed and could be like fixed up a little bit to make the game better just for myself, but it's not about just for me, it's for a lot of the players. Now, I don't complain about the grindy side of things because I don't find the game grindy at all. I find it ridiculously easy on the grinding level. Especially like there's a lot of people that complain about the awareness and stuff like that, and like if you just ran around and farm metal nodes, you'd be 60 in 2 days. It doesn't require that much time, and people do it on official all the time. When a new official launches, you'll have a few 60s because they solely focus on just getting the XP, and that's why they own the server by the end of the first week. A lot of people don't like to play that way. A lot of people like to do everything and build up their base and have all the defensive put in. But then you're going to be behind everyone else when you're doing everything and not focusing on that sole thing. You get your XP, you get your awareness to 60 as quickly as possible, and then build, you're in a far better position because you never lose that awareness XP. That awareness XP is on your mask, so you can just move it wherever you need to. That's why a lot of people just go and they camp the copper mine, a tin mine, and all that sort of thing, and they will defend it for dear life because they are getting the XP that they need to get their awareness up as quickly as possible. So I don't think anything's need to be changed on the grinding side, but I know there's a lot of people that do find that really irritating because they haven't got as much time to play, and I'm in that same boat now because I'm working 12 hours a day. So there's a lot of time that I don't have to play the game anymore. But I think if I carried on, I could carry on talking on forever. So I'm just going to cut it here. Let me know down below what your ideas for making the game better and making it more accessible to newer players and more accessible and more like allowing the game to have more replayability, for example. Let me know down in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe if you do enjoy my content. There will be more videos like this that will be coming out. I just haven't had the time the past couple of days to go anything past the complete Soulmask series. Make sure to check that out if you want to see me just play through the game and make millions of mistakes and die and do stupid things, because I'm not really good at the combat in any game, not 100%. I'm good at mechanics and building and that sort of thing, and that's why I love survival games. That's why I have friends who play with me that are the PvPers, because I need to protect my ass. This is Sovereign RPG. I am Sovereign. Fly safe and avoid local chat scams.
I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy.